Welcome to the Casuals Guide to UFC Fight Night Almeida vs. Lewis, where I show you filthy casuals why this card is going to be a banger. This card is in Brazil, and let me tell you that the UFC has absolutely stacked this card with great Brazilian talent. And not only that, but there's also a lot of my favorite fighters on there. But enough talking, and let's get right into it. In the main event, Jailton Almeida faces off against the hottest balls in the game, the Black Beast Derrick Lewis. Derrick Lewis is taking this fight on short notice, replacing Curtis Blaydes. And you casuals might have heard of Almeida. He has been on fire in the UFC. He is 5-0 in the UFC and has finished all of his fights, 4 of those in the first round. He is a grappler. I know you filthy casuals hate grappling, but hear me out. This guy grapples, but he always looks to finish the fight. He has finished all 19 of his wins. I repeat, all 19 of his wins he finished within the distance. The judges have never been needed for this man. 7 of his wins are by knockout or TKO, and the other 12 are by submission. His last 2 fights made us truly believe in the hype. He would face Shamil Abdurakhimov, and after a dominant first round, he would take Shamil down in the second and finish him via ground and pound. It was complete domination from the start, but his last fight was where he jumped up in competition. He would get matched up with Jairzinho Rozenstruik. He was a heavy favorite, and for good reason. He would make it look too easy. He took Jairzinho down and got the rear naked choke in the first round. But of course, he's facing his biggest test yet. Everyone knows who Derrick Lewis is, the hottest balls in the game and one of the most powerful heavyweights in the UFC. The Black Beast is known for his knockout power. 22 of his 27 wins are by knockout. He has a long list of highlight knockouts. Some notable ones include his knockout of Alexander Volkov, where he would finish him at the buzzer to win a fight he was on his way to losing. His knockout of Curtis Blaydes was frightening to watch. He caught him with an uppercut shooting for the takedown and left him stiff as a board. In his last fight, he would once again earn a highlight reel knockout. He would land a flying knee. Yeah, a flying knee. Derrick Lewis, the heavyweight, took flight and landed a perfectly placed knee to the jaw of Marcos Rogerio de Lima to finish the fight in 33 seconds. This guy is deceptively explosive. This is a classic grappler versus striker, but at the highest level. And as we've learned this year, anything can happen. Don't miss out. In the co-main event, we have one of the biggest Brazilian prospects, Gabriel Maratinha Bonfim. He is taking on the Danish dynamite Nicolas Dalby. Gabriel and his brother Ismail, who is also on this card, they made waves when they both won their UFC contracts on the same night on the Contender Series. Gabriel would only elevate his hype with his UFC debut against Munir Lazzez. He would come out the gate fast as hell, and he would eventually snatch Munir's neck. He would submit him by mounted guillotine choke in 1 minute. He would continue his rise in his last fight against Trevin Giles. Once again, it was his elite grappling that he used to discard of Giles in a little over a minute. He would once again snatch necks at lightning quick speeds when he would catch Giles in a nasty guillotine in the first round. This guy is nasty on the ground. 12 of his 15 wins are by submission, and now he is facing the biggest test against the Danish Dynamite. Nicolas Dalby is on a roll, 3 wins in a row with wins over Muslim Salikov, Warley Alves, and Claudio Silva. And this guy pushes the pace. He's going to come out just as quick as Bonfim. He is well-rounded, but I don't think he's skilled enough anywhere to really cause Bonfim problems. His biggest weapon is his pace, and we have yet to see Bonfim go into deep waters. It's going to be a great matchup. Don't miss out. Next up, we got a fun rematch in the heavyweight division when Rodrigo Nascimento takes on Jailton Almeida. This will be the second time these two clash. In their first matchup, Nascimento won by rear naked choke in the second round. Mays was obviously the better striker. He was landing the bigger shots more frequently. He was actually doing well stopping the takedowns until Rodrigo took his back faster than he could react. And I'm not gonna lie to y'all, he's the type of grappler you filthy casuals have nightmares about. On the bright side, it's that in his last fight, he has been more willing to strike and keep the fights on the feet. He kept that on the feet when he went up against Ilir Latifi. He would look way more comfortable throwing punches. He would also win by split decision, so it was still a very close fight. He also would win a split decision against Tanner Boser. There, he also tried to go toe-to-toe with a striker like Boser, but it proved how his hands still need some work, as he would do what he does best, which is to get the takedown then maintain control. It was not the most entertaining, but if you saw how fast Boser started out the gate, I do not blame him for shooting for takedowns. And he's going to be facing Lord Kong Jailton Almeida. Mays is coming off a great knockout win over UFC veteran Andrei Arlovski. He has proven he's got good power in his punches. Classic grappler versus striker in the heavyweight division. Do not miss out. Next up, we got a deadly jiu-jitsu practitioner, the black belt hunter Rodolfo Vieira, taking on the Armenian Armin Superman Petrosian. This fight is going to be a banger. Rodolfo Vieira is so dangerous on the ground. 8 of his 9 wins are by submission. His bread and butter is the ground. Whenever he can't get it there, you can kind of see how one-dimensional he kind of is. Chris Curtis stopped all 20 of Rodolfo's takedown attempts, and he got outstruck on the feet, and he ended up losing that fight by decision. And he's going to be looking to shoot early against Armen Petrosyan. Armen is another guy who has been through the fires of hell with his matchups in the UFC. His UFC debut was against RoboCop Gregory Rodriguez. He would win a split decision in what would be a great bloody fight and uncrowned fight of the night. He would go on to lose to Caio Bahaio by decision. And I have no doubt in my mind that Vieira is watching that fight with Caio because of all the takedowns he landed and the control that he had. But Petrosyan has been the target of multiple takedown attempts, and he has given some up. But he seems to make it as difficult as possible for them. And he has shown that if you can't take him down, he will outstrike you and he will outdog you. He outstruck AJ Dobson and Christian Leroy Duncan in his last 2 fights. Both guys are still green in MMA and trying to make their way up the ranks. This is going to be a lot of fun to watch, and I'm a huge fan of both guys. Don't miss out. You might see this matchup and think they are feeding an old vet to a young buck, but that could not be farther from the truth. I hope you casuals have recognized the name so far, because if you haven't, it's only going to get worse for you. We got Ismael Maheta Bonfim taking on Vince from Hell Pichel. Ismael's the other half of the Bonfim brothers. Him and his brother Gabriel made some waves when they would both win their contracts on the same night in the Contender Series. Man, Ismael kept his hype high when he would win his UFC debut against Terrence McKinney. He would win in dominant fashion when he would land a perfectly placed flying knee that would put T-Rex to sleep. In his last fight, he would be matched up against Benoit Saint Denis. His ground game would be exposed, and he was absolutely ragdolled by Saint Denis. He would be submitted by rear naked choke at the end of the first round. It's kind of crazy to me that his brother Gabriel is an absolute monster on the ground, but Ismael looked completely outmatched on the ground. Ismael, as we saw in the McKinney fight, has great striking. He's got good power, and he's going to be facing the 40-year-old veteran Vince Pichel. Pichel will be everything but a sacrificial lamb. He is a tough, scrappy fighter. He is very well rounded and has shown that time has given him that old man strength. He did lose his last fight to Mark Madsen by decision, but he made the takedowns difficult for the Olympian. He has shown he can scramble with really good guys. It won't surprise me if he decides to make it a scrappy grappling match. It's going to be closer than most expect, and I can't wait to see how it plays out. Don't miss out. Holy banger. Another Brazilian prospect, Caio the Natural Bahaio, takes on Abus Magomedov. Caio is going to be the real deal, man. I'm telling y'all. He's spearheading the rise of the fighting nerds out of Brazil. He is 14-1 with 4 wins by knockout or TKO and 4 by submission. He is 4-0 in the UFC so far, and my God, has he fought no one but absolute killers. He made his UFC debut against Gagiel Magaziev. He was supposed to be the inferior grappler, but he ended up absolutely dominating Gachi on the ground to a technical decision. He would go on to fight another killer in Armen Petrosyan, who's also fighting on this card. And man, Petrosyan is an absolute dog. You casuals got to keep an eye on both these guys. They went toe-to-toe, but Caio proved he can fight a smart fight to edge out his opponent, and he would win a unanimous decision. And then he would fight Mahmoud Muradov, another killer. He would continue to show off his excellent grappling, dominating Mahmoud for all 3 rounds to a unanimous decision. Then in his most recent fight, he would face Mikhail Olejniczak, a big power puncher coming from light heavyweight, and he would find the finish in the second round when he would win by rear naked choke. Man, this guy is good. He's gonna have to face someone you casuals might remember. Abus Magomedov is a newer face in the UFC. He's only got 2 fights in the UFC so far, but his last fight was a main event against Sean Strickland where he would lose in the second round by TKO. He started off blazing fast, but eventually slowed down and got absolutely swarmed by Sean Strickland. It was honestly a terrible showing for him, but before that, he would get a great knockout win over Dustin Stoltzfus in the first round of his UFC debut. He's got huge power. 14 of his 25 wins are by knockout or TKO, and he's going to be looking to bounce back against a rising prospect. This is such a fun fight. Don't miss out. Alright guys, that was the casuals guide to UFC Fight Night Almeida versus Lewis. I hope you casuals learned a thing or two. A few other fighters to look out for on the prelims are Vitor Petrino. He is also an undefeated Brazilian prospect at 9-0. He will be facing his biggest test yet in Modestas Bukauskas. That's going to be a fun one, man. Don't miss that one. Also, Renat Fakhretdinov is set to take on Elise Zaleski dos Santos. I don't know how this guy Renat is not on the main card, but don't miss this fight, man. It's going to be a huge test for him. And this Brazil card will start at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the main card will start at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I love cards that are earlier like this, but yeah, this is going to be a great night of fights. Do not forget to tune in, and I'll see you next week for UFC 295 Jones vs. Miocic, another goddamn banger. But until then, protect your neck and take care.